Today, we're presenting about the Washington EAP. This is the UW's Employee Assistance Program. This particular presentation is for employees and their families. So this program is for you, but it's also for anybody in your household. So that title of families is a broad sweeping term. It's not who's on your PEB eligible list. It's not who's on your health insurance. It's who is important and close to you, that if they're not doing well, you're not doing well either. So that this program is available to them as well. So before I do introductions, I just want to go over kind of the lay of the land here, some rules to keep us in order. We do have a lot of people here today, so please keep yourself on mute from now on. We are recording today's session, so we'll be able to post it live. And then if you have questions during the event, which I hope you do, I hope that you'll put them in the chat. Sebastian, who did the introduction, will be moderating the chat today. And whenever I'm done with my short intro before turning it over to Jen, I'll also be helping out with the chat. We'll try to reserve about 15 minutes at the end of today's session for some Q&A, where we'll take it off of the recording so that you can kind of ask questions without worrying about it being posted up on the website. My name is Jessica Cole. Pleasure to be here with you all today. I am the Director for Work Life. I'm based out of Human Resources here at the University of Washington. And I will turn it over to Jen to introduce herself, who's here from the Washington EAP.
Thanks so much, Jessica. I appreciate the introduction. And I really appreciate just how you opened, because as many times as I do these presentations, both in person and virtual, I never fully shake the nerves. And so I really appreciate it. And I'm probably going to use that tactic too in the future, just being like, can somebody else let me know that you're in the room? Because especially in the virtual world, like when you only see bubble floating heads with no movement behind it, you're like, is anyone there? So the fact that the turnout is right now, we have 87 participants is something that really fills my heart with so much joy. And it's the reason why I do what I do. The fact that the awareness is spreading within a culture within UW is something which is also my alma mater as well, means that we all came here for a reason, whether it be our own personal investments for our own self-care or our own curiosity about what's available to not only yourself, but to your family members and folks that you have within your life that you care about as well. These moments are great opportunities to just learn about what is available to you, and also just to continue to spread the word around the need for accessible and equitable mental health resources. I feel like it is a fundamental human right that we have access to it. And so without further ado, I have a slide deck. It is lengthy and it's wordy, and know that all of the slide decks will be provided to you all. So don't feel the need to have to like mad dash write things down if you're just trying to like absorb the information as it comes. It's going to be available to you all. So as we progress through the slide deck, if you have questions, feel free, again, what Jessica was saying, jot down any questions. We'll have opportunity to ask them. Oftentimes I find what's most fruitful about the time spent in orientation, what we call them EAP orientations, are that people have very specific questions that, generally speaking, other people may have the same question as well, but they're not, it may be a passing thought or something that, oh, I remember after the fact and I didn't get a chance to ask. So don't feel any type of way about asking and being curious. And that's the beautiful fluidity of online virtual worlds now, is that we have a very thriving live chat box with moderators built into the space to really like triage a lot of that questions. And if there's anything that we aren't able to answer in the moment of time due to timing, or just I may not have all the answers, we can get back to you with anything that you're curious or want to know more about. So with that said, I will pull up our EAP slide deck, but just a little bit about myself. I'm Jen Nguyen. I am the EAP director. I've been in state service for over 16 years. The bulk of my career was spent in my earlier tenure working in child welfare. And in the last several years before I came to EAP, I was part of a group of folks who built a very comprehensive peer support and crisis response mental health program within DCYF to triage some of the most egregious things that can happen to children and families in the work that we do. And so I've been with the EAP now for 8 months, and it's been a wonderful transition. It truly fills my cup. And outside of EAP, I also am a part-time clinician. My predominant work caseload is serving adult children of immigrant refugees of the Asian American diaspora. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about who I am. But without further ado, I'll queue up the slide decks. If you could just bear with me for just one moment. Oh God, a day without technical, I don't want to speak too soon, but a day without technical difficulties is like a win in our worlds. So I'm actually filling in today. So I may be a familiar face to you, or you may see a colleague of mine as well, Carly Osborne. She's our educational and awareness specialist. She is the person who predominantly does most of our education and awareness efforts and tabling events and things like that. So we interchangeably support one another on our team. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right in. Before I like to get started, I always like to get a feel for like how much people even know about EAP. We'll just do a quick reactions. If you've heard of EAP, go ahead and throw a reaction in the box just so we have an idea of like, have people heard of it? Do they know anything about it? I'm gonna look really quickly at all the participants. Oh, yay! So quite a bit of reactions. Great. Well, that's always good for me to know. It's always good for me to know to like, okay, how much depth do I need to go into each slide deck and how much of I can just skim through things. But it's a really nice way for me to kind of understand like what are people's awareness of EAP in general, and also to demystify or even dismantle any information that may not be correct about EAP and just what's available to you, most importantly. So Washington EAP has been around for over 50 years. It is the premier mental health provider for state agencies, and has expanded into large contracts such as UW in serving a lot of our local school districts, our higher ed institutions, and a lot of the private sector as well. Predominantly, this is where we began, was the Washington EAP was intended to serve public service employees, and as we expanded, so has our resources and opportunities to serve too. And we're comprised of a mix between paid staff. I have a staff team of 16, and we're growing. We actually have a couple openings as well. And outside of our paid staff that's internal, we also have third-party contractual mental health providers that serve. And actually, one of the beauties of being working with the University of Washington is it's also expanded our landscape and coverage as well, given that UW has lots of employees that are located in other states. We have also expanded our provider network to serve multiple different states now, and I think we're at 17 different states that we now have providers. And honestly, that happened because of our contract with UW, because of the need. So I have all you all to thank for showing up and voicing and continuing naming the things that you need to better thrive in the works that you do. So,
If you don't mind, I'd love to chime in for just a second.
sure.
You know, some of us have been around since we had previous EAP providers. Last year, we changed over to Washington EAP, and it has brought a much more flexibility and access to providers, because the previous EAP would just send you kind of like a list of providers that you could call and schedule with. But the difference here, and Jen alluded to it a bit here, and we'll probably go into it further in upcoming slides, is that they have a hybrid network. So they have a network of folks that are completely employed by the EAP and accessible to only the contracts that they have and the population that they serve. And then they also have a provider network that you can refer out to, and they manage that network instead of with the other EAPs where they kind of purchase the network from other network gathering entities. EAP does their own management of their network in a very holistic and intentional way. So that's one of the major differences that you'll see with this EAP versus our previous EAP.
And what we always try to stand true to what we say is it's a warm handoff and access to, for many different reasons, mental health is still very much can be looked at as a stigma or a vulnerability or asserted in any kind of negativity that really just doesn't serve the greater population and good when we realize, like, if nothing else, the pandemic really highlighted that, like, we as a collective society and world are not well and are struggling. And so we think about, statistically speaking, the number one most commonly missed appointment is the first one. And that can come with a lot of layered reasons why that is. So we really try to hone in on customer service as one of being one of our main priorities, is the notion of, like, it's a lot less scary when you have something to have a warm handoff. And so we're gonna get through a lot of this, like, the actual, like, processes of how this works and how it's a warm approach and a warm handoff and a warm, like, entrance into EAP. So I'm just gonna click through and know that there's plenty of time. Again, like, the slide decks will be provided. If you have questions, jot them down or throw them in the chat, and we can kind of start keeping catalog of them, and hopefully answer what we can within the time that we have. And if there's extra time or we go over time, myself or one of my staff team members can respond directly to you and get your answers met. So yeah, little quick facts. This is our primary mode of EAP, is to provide short-term solution-based counseling. That's not to say that we don't have the ability to stay with people longer, or that you can see the same clinician for different various reasons. The reason why it's a short-term solution base is that's largely also contractually what we provide. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. Office, we have an office. It's in Olympia. I don't actually know when the last time anyone stepped foot in the office is. Largely, the pandemic has shifted the way we provide our services. Largely, we're able to see a lot of different people and a lot more from a place perspective of equity, truly just being able to see people where and meet them where they're at, as opposed to having designated places to meet that may be like, logistically a nightmare to get to the Olympia office. And so if you have any more questions about that, we'll also progress and move forward. We do offer in-persons depending on the clinician, the provider, their locale, and availability to the client as well, client being yourselves. And then a little bit more about our program. We are a 24-hour support. So if it's after hours or on the weekends, it's the same 1-800 number. You will be connected to a live person who is a trained clinician. And if you are in active crisis, they also have the ability to help warm handoff into a higher threshold of care if needed. But if you just need to talk to somebody, a live agent, hey, I have a conflict that just happened within my own family and I just want to be connected, they will gather all your information and get you connected to a clinician in the days coming. And that's our EAP website, and that's our 1-800 number. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but we are a hybrid model. So we have a collection of paid staff that are employed with the Washington State EAP program. And we also have what we talked about, it was the contracted providers. So these are all contracted providers who have their own businesses, their own LLCs, PLLCs, and they provide mental health supports beyond the three model session that we provide with EAP. So they have the ability to stay with you beyond the 3 sessions if that's something that you and the clinician decide, like, that's a relationship you want to continue on in your own therapy journey. That's an option. But the idea is that we have a much more robust system of care beyond just paid internal staff, which is our paid internal staff team is 16 employees, and our provider network is well over 200, and continues to grow too based on needs, because we have very specific needs for folks of all the different agencies that we support as well. So our services, what we do, it is an intake assessment. It begins with an intake assessment. So we'll just use an example of starting through. So I'm Jen, and I am going through a challenging time with my with a peer. I just need the space to really decompress and really talk through. And so me as the client, I'll go online or call the 1-800 number, and there's an intake form. The intake form is filled out, submitted to then what goes to our intake team. They gather the information, make connection with you, learn a little bit about what you are hoping to have um, what you're what essentially why are you reaching out to EAP? How can we support you? Gather the information. They'll make a match for you either by your own schedule, like you can select your own time to meet with an intake counselor to do a little bit more of a deep dive. And then from that, we get you connected to based on your needs. You say, me being I identify as an Asian American female. I would like to talk to somebody who maybe shares some of those identities, maybe a BIPOC clinician, just stating what your preference is, what you're hoping to accomplish. Our counselors then make the connection to you. And then from that, you schedule your first assessment or your first session. And you're allotted 3 sessions per, I don't want to call it issue, but it's a per reason. So essentially, there's no cap on how many times you can reach out to EAP. We keep it solution focused short term for any one reason for reaching out. So let's say let's use the same example. I reached out and said, I'm having a conflict with a coworker, and I want to have my 3 sessions to really process through that. And then a week later, it's now the stress and anxiety is having an impact on my own personal family. It's like I'm slightly more short tempered, or I'm experiencing loss of sleep from the stress of this. I want to talk about that. Another 3 sessions. So it's this open, continuous open door policy of being able to reach out for any time based on whatever's coming up for you. We also provide, again, what we talked about, the 24/7, 365 days of support. There is never a moment that there isn't a live person, a live body that responds to our phone line. Um, and outside of that, we have a lot of opportunities for webinars, education, resource libraries, trainings that's available for supervisors, for people and who are just, let's say you're like, I work in a staff team that are experiencing a lot of um, organizational change, and I just want to have somebody, a consultant, come in and just do a little bit of training and workshopping around that. That's something that we provide. It's the same really similar process of requesting for support, and it's just on our website, and those are all going to be provided to you if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about that. And then the other wonderful thing that I actually recently took advantage of, because it's something that is available to me, is work-life resources. And Jessica has a myriad of resources available. We could spend an entire day talking about it, but some of the things that people most commonly think about that is legal services, financial consultations. I actually recently just did my living will, and I did it through the EAP contract as well. And they provide free consultations to just learn a little bit more about what you're hoping to accomplish. And then there's large discounts for I'll just use myself for an example. For my living will, I completed that, and they provided a free 2-hour consultation and then 25% off of the total cost of my living will. And so multiple different things that are available in that way. So yeah. And just piggybacking on what I named earlier about organizational consults, clinical incident stress management response, that's a little bit different than the organizational concepts. This is really triaging high acute, stressful situations. Feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm just going to name it. Some of those things can be threats to personal threats to staff, threats to into like people's environments. It could be death of a coworker, colleague, or a child in the areas that you serve. It could be gosh, we've seen natural disasters as the one that has come up. The pandemic was a pretty large environmental critical incident stress management response. And so we over in the east side, we have seen wildfires, devastating wildfires, and we've responded to those deployments as well. So, yeah. A lot of information, but I'm just gonna keep coasting along. I haven't been manning or looking over the chat. Are we doing okay so far, Jessica?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions applying to this particular screen. So there was a mention of 3 visits. It's not per year, it's per person per incident. That gives you a great amount of flexibility. So if you're in January, you're having a stress event where you're not getting along with your supervisor and you're hoping to get help working through that, you get 3 visits for that. In February, you're having some interpersonal issues with a loved one, 3 issues for that. Stress event comes in March, 3 issues for that. So it's per incident. It certainly is not time bound. Our lives are not. So we do. It's a really robust benefit in that way. And then I just want to reiterate, everything here, this whole program, this whole package is for the employee and their families. So anybody in your household. So the legal benefit and the financial benefit, the counseling benefit, it's all applies to you and your family members. So the other question about, and I actually don't know the answer to this, and maybe you do, Jen, is for the will software that's on the work life services. Is that what you used for your will, or did you go through an attorney?
I went through an attorney. Yeah, I actually didn't
Okay.
know that there was a will service. Maybe that would have even saved me more money. I don't know. No, actually, EAP connected me to several different attorneys that are contracted with EAP, and I called the one that was closest to me, and they provided, and we actually walked through the whole process, all the financial documents, and yeah, so it was a really great experience. I highly recommend it.
There's a will maker software that is on the work life services webpage, and I think it's limited to one IP address.
Interesting.
And I don't know if there's a limit on the number of wills that you can make out of that one IP address, but that software is free. It comes with the work life services. So if you feel like you have all that you need to know about what you want on your will, and you feel like you're prepared to write that with this service, that is free to you. But if you're wanting to kind of discuss holistically your life and how you want to form your will with different circumstances and ask questions to an attorney, then it sounds like there's an alternative route that Jen is describing. And both of those are available to your family members.
Mhm. It could be a combination of both. If you are incredibly savvy, which I am not, and I was very nervous to do it incorrectly, you could also just, it sounds like you could start the beginning semblances of that and then use your contracted time that you have, the EAP, like free contracted time that we already, you as in UW and me as EAP, like we're already paying into it. You could have that be the time that they look over what you've created just to, make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And yeah, that's another option as well. So being creative about what's available to you. Are we safe to move?
We're safe to move on. I'm going to answer some questions in the chat for those who have pending ones, and I'll get the link out for the free living will as well.
Sounds good. Okay, so yeah, a lot of this may be kind of just redundant because we've already been kind of fluidly talking about it, but the intake assessment, short-term counseling referrals, this is the kind of the layout, how it really works and what we talked about. And just reiterating what Jessica said, the thing that I really, if you hear nothing else from this presentation today, the one I really want to go back and be like, to say it again so it just imprints that strong muscle memory is that it's not 3 sessions per year. It's not 3 sessions per month. It's per issue. And that can be a myriad of different reasons why you might reach out. And they could also be simultaneously kind of overlapping with each other as well. And so, and the other one just here is like shouting out the rooftop is that it's available to employees and household family members, including dependents, so your children as well. Yeah, and this is all a little bit more just about our program itself. It's self-scheduling for intake. So there's a portal that gives you all the different intake appointments, and you self-select which one works best for you and the method of how you want to be contacted. All of our clinicians are master's levels. And they are trained in screening for risk assessment and different evidence-based tools. And then part of the intake process, like let's say you're like, I don't think I necessarily need 3 sessions. Maybe I only want, and that commonly will happen. People will reach out and say, I'm good after 1 session. I really just wanted the space to work through. Sometimes people don't move beyond the intake process too. They just say, hey, I really just need some resources. And that's what the intake uh, clinician does, is like, let me hear what's coming up for you. What do you want to work through? How can I support you on? So it's even shorter than the shorter solution-based focus there, because the idea is like, whatever the need is, that's what we're there to support. So some folks are just like, you know what, I just need some resources for um um actually, this is one we got recently. It's like, I just need some quick resources around how to manage better sleep um schedules and routines before bed. Great. Like the counselor's like, here's a laundry list of different things that work. Here's a different like mindfulness a mindfulness tool or a journaling tool. So it can be very, very um, catered to exactly what you're hoping to seek. And nobody is saying that you're committed and have to do 3 sessions if it feels like it's you just want something really quick and just have a quick question or answer that you want to have looked at or referred to. These are I'm for the essence of saving time, and I'm letting you all kind of read through this. These are some of the most common reasons people reach out to EAP. This is not a comprehensive list that says this is the only reason people are. This is just what commonly we will see, and that's in the intake form. There's drop down menus that kind of highlight like it is having to do with grief and loss. Grief and loss is a major one, and particularly post pandemic and during the pandemic as well. One that people may not commonly know about, and it actually, we saw a really large uptick after the pandemic, was relationship improvement or just relationship counseling. Um, Gosh, I know that during that time for me, it was like suddenly forever felt like a really long time to be stuck in a house all the time with my partner. And so this is something that people have reached out around, just wanting to work through some family conflicts or relationship issues or improvement or things that are coming up. And so, yeah, that's something that EAP does also provide, is relationship counseling. It is limited to the 3 sessions. However you want to utilize those resources, or if it means that like you start with 3 sessions as a couple and then see somebody individually for yourself for a different issue, just for have your own individual time. Same with your partner, that can happen as well. Okay, this is a handy dandy kind of visual aid to kind of show how sequentially the steps go. Submit an intake form online or call if you like. If you're one of those people like me, I like to call Comcast and get a live agent, and I'll just wait for hours. It's not ever hours that you're waiting, but I like to just have somebody on the phone to talk through. But if you are quick and like to just do it like on your own time, submitting an intake form and then scheduling an appointment, a self-selected appointment, speaking to an intake counselor to better talk about what your needs are, and then scheduling an appointment with a counselor and or a third-party provider that we have in our network. And then 5th is meeting with the staff or counselor for your 3 sessions. If it feels like 1 is enough, that's great. If 3 feels good, that's fine too. If it feels like it's going to go beyond that, the private clinician will work with you on terms of like, what does that look like to pick up, can continue on as a provider through your insurance, or does it feel like something that you can step away and then maybe come back later? They work with you more specifically on what your needs are. Here are all the steps in a different visual aid. This is more sequentially like bulleted. And again, like this is all provided to you after the slide deck is done with the embedded hyperlinks in there for easier access. I always take a little bit of time to talk about the 24-hour, 7 days a week, and 365 days of support. The term crisis is very broad. The spectrum of what a crisis can mean is relative to the person. So my idea of a crisis, like for example, during the holidays, it's very chaotic in my family, and I may feel like I'm in crisis in that moment because 5 extra bodies showed up at my home that I wasn't accounting for. I don't know if I have enough food to feed everybody. That feels for me like a crisis, but a crisis could also mean the very far spectrum of that, which is somebody is actively suicidal or expressing suicidality. And so this phone number in our 24-hour support is available 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days, as well as 988. And that's something that we would work with whoever's calling. If you were in active crisis with active suicidality, we would refer to 988, or we'll call with you. We've done that plenty of times, as well as do a soft handout is call and talk to the participant who's calling on the phone, get an idea of like their safety, what's going on. It feels like you are in active crisis and need further assistance beyond what we can provide just with a warm call. I've had clinicians stay on the phone with folks as they walk themselves into the emergency departments. We've had people safety plan and plan for aftercare plans while we're on the phone with folks. And I just wanted to name that that is something that is available. The steps to access the 24-hour, 7 days a week resource is to call our 1-800 number. If it's after hours or on the weekends, it will always offer you to prompt and press 2, which is to be connected to an on-call crisis clinician. And you'll speak to a clinician and request a follow-up if you desire. And then if it feels like you would like continued connection, the 24-hour crisis response will prompt our team to follow up with you the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day that you would like to have a reach out. And this is our work-life resources. Just speaking a little bit about what I was able to speak about earlier about the legal assistance. We have web resources and financial counseling. And it sounds like UW even has paired. So this is, contractually what we have within EAP as available to like the greater enterprise. But Jessica, you and your team have even more supports. I'm in awe of just to see what's available to your community, and that's just so great. So it's really nice to have this partnership with you all.
And I do want to mention that the thing that trips people up with this service is that it is a separate website from the services that we've been talking about already. And there is an institutional code that you have to put in to enter the website. We've made it fairly simple. It's UW. So, but we've got so many passwords and codes to remember. So honestly, we get emails all the time asking us for the code at worklife@uw.edu. But also know that the WorkLife website, which I'll show you in a little bit, it has that on, if you click EAP, the EAP tile on the WorkLife website, it has that code on almost every one of the EAP website or web pages. So there's an easy way to access that code if you forget or when you forget. And if you can't remember where the website is, you can always email WorkLife. So we're happy to help. Cricket, do you mind holding off on your question until the Q&A session, or do you want to ask it now?
That's fine, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, we are moving actually really,
Oh,
a little bit more what Jessica was talking about. This is what the page looks like. And that's again the login and the organizational code. This is where you would enter UW.
And I do want to say that if you're wanting to let time slip away from you, log into this website and look at all of the like written resources that are available to you, trainings, but their discount network that's associated with this is deep and fun to look at. So they have like really relevant discounts. In our previous partner, the discount network, it was kind of on stuff I wouldn't necessarily use, but they had discounts on movie tickets, which we definitely can use in our family, and stuff like I don't know, back to school supplies discounts and such. So it's worth checking out. And I'll drop a quick little unrelated but slightly related that the Whole U also has a discount network to check out as well. I know as we're going back into the school year, we all have a lot of expenses. So it's nice to get some discounts wherever you can.
And moving into just away from just the most commonly what people think about EAP is that, we think of it as being a mental health provider for an organization. And so we start to think about like, oh, psychotherapy, that's the only thing that's available to you. And then that's really not true. Like, if not, that's the second thing I'm to take away from this is that there are so many things that EAP provides beyond just short-term solution-based counseling. So this notion of like awareness and education, all the different resources. If you are just like, I want to learn something today, hop on our website and there's so many webinars and trainings. We have a well-being Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday is what it's called, is a live webinar that goes over multiple different topics of area just rooted in wellness, and everything that's provided at EUP is recorded and provided as either a link to a recording in YouTube or a live recording. It's just really cool to see what's available. We do tons of tabling events throughout the year. There's a whole week that will be out at different various UW tabling events, and we like to pride ourselves of our cool swag. We've got great like things like fidget spinners and puppets and just oh gosh, what is a stress doll? I think that's what it's called. These little like miniature stress dolls that you keep in your pocket. And it's funny because one of my favorite things is like going to like the traditionally very like macho organizations where it's very male dominant, and they're like, can I have one of those dolls? We're like, yes. Like, why not? So yeah, so we'll keep on the lookout, keep checking into your listservs. Like you'll be getting tons of different correspondence about different events that we'll be attending, and hope to see you in person.
Yeah, and the EAP will be at the benefits fairs. So
Oh,
that's a good
yeah.
reason to show up and get some swag from them for your local benefit fair.
And of course, we have a page dedicated to suicide prevention and intervention. This is not the easiest topic to talk about, and it's very much on the rise, and it is prevalent in our world. And getting all the information that you have, and if you and the idea is like we never want anyone to feel alone, whether are worried about a loved one or in proximity with somebody who really has some challenging mental health barriers. Like there's a place for you, and hopefully this is one of many that you have in terms of just resources and supports. And so this is just our EAP webpage, and a lot of our work is actually based upon uh, our partnership with Forefront in UW. So. Oh my gosh, we got through it. So I'm happy to stop screen sharing so that way we can ask Q&As and I can actually see faces. So yeah, we have plenty of time to ask any questions. So I'm just gonna allow a moment for people to kind of frame anything, throw it in the chat, or be brave and come off mute. And yeah, we'll see. We can answer the best we can with